Hello, and welcome along to the fifth and final episode of Beldania, the pre-campaign sessions. Today we have our fifth party member, Jodi Master, or Joe. Joe, introduce your character to us, please.
Yeah, sure. So I am playing Hennic Littlefield. He is a halfling, sort of very standard farmer, and he is on the road to barddom. But yeah, he lives a very simple life in the village that you've been introduced to if you've watched these others, Sandringham, and he basically works in his field, turns up stones to skip on the river in the afternoons, and sits and plays a little bit of music and passes out a little bit of advice on his porch in the evenings. I think it's pretty much the full picture of his life for quite a while now. He's a little bit older. I think most of our other characters are sort of coming of age types, and he's more about 71, but still sort of middle aged for a halfling, but definitely some years behind him, but very, very similar years on purpose.
Much so. And we come to Hennic in the late afternoon, early evening of his day, perhaps 6:30, 7 o'clock. What would Hennic be doing at 6:30, 7 o'clock?
Yeah, so probably sitting on his porch and waiting to see if anybody turns up. He lives not far from the tavern, so that he can kind of be off doing his own thing, but still keep an eye on the passings of the people, and probably playing a little bit of music with typically his juice harp, which he has here, and I can. Well, and just passing his time like that for the evening.
And as he's playing away, foot tapping, you see a visitor approach towards your gate. He's leading a very fine-looking pony, which, without asking you, he begins to tie to your fence. It's a fine-looking pony, and he is a halfling. And he calls out, "What ho!
How can I help you, friend?
Might I have come to the house of Hennic Littlefield?
You have indeed.
I was
Something I can do for you?
passing through the town. I wanted to stop at the tavern, but when I went in, I found a lot of big folk, and they told me if I was looking for the company of a halfling, then there was no one better to bend one's ear or to tell a tale than Hennic Littlefield."
Well, I suppose that is indeed the case. I'm happy to listen to your, adventures, troubles, whatever it is you have, friend.
I brought some fine cheese, some good meat, and some good bread. As you look at this gentleman, he is a halfling with sandy brown hair and an easy smile. He is, however, incredibly richly dressed. He's wearing sort of a green traveling jerkin that is secured with a brooch of silver and jewels. He's got a leather belt sort of clasped around him with a big gold buckle, and boots, and both his boots and his belt are sort of black leather and shining in the moonlight. He's got a rapier on his hip, and hanging down sort of from his what is a bandolier across his shoulder is a hand crossbow. That bandolier appears to have some sort of ammunition for the crossbow all across it. He's got a sort of beret on his head of startling green, and you can see as he speaks and he waves his hands, there are glistening rings, and yeah, he's definitely got some money behind him, and he sort of says, "Well, in the name of Cyril, might I come in?" And he sort of gestures towards your gate.
I suppose so. We don't get too many fanciful types such as yourself coming through, but I suppose it's a good sign that you're interested in, whatever kind of wisdom and companionship we might be able to offer here in Sandrium.
I wouldn't call myself a fanciful type. It's just, it's the trappings of the trade. The trappings of the trade. Anyway, and he sort of clicks at his horse, and he says, "All right, Clover, calm down." And pats his horse on the shoulder, and he brings his saddlebag in with his food. And as he reaches your porch, he takes his rapier and his hand crossbow and lays them down, so as not to sort of sit armed at your table. Sure. Offers you a little breaking of the bread and some cheese. And he tells you that his name is Xandrak Sweetvoice of the Swiftfoot clan. He also tells you that he's a member of the Velvet Glove Guild. The Velvet Glove is, he explains, a guild of diplomacy. It is his job to sort of go and settle border disputes, or perhaps only farming disputes, to travel to places where strife might break out, and to broker the hand of diplomacy in the name of the Urax state.
So you say this finery here is the trappings of that particular profession. Do you find it actually helps you out with folk?
Not so much the smaller folk, the farms folk, the townsfolk, but the people in power who you tend to be brokering peace with. For example, I've just come from Harbondon, and I'm headed south. And in Harbondon, there was a disagreement of two, Harbondon, the province. There was a disagreement of two large landowners, two mayors. Often they trust those that appear to be of a higher authority, and a lot of small-minded folk. Those that are better dressed tend to be of higher authority. It's stupid, I know, but it's easy to ignore a halfling otherwise.
In one sense, perhaps, but well, what troubles you through our town today?
It's it's on the way to the crossroads, or the way from the crossroads, I should say. I was in the crossroads visiting an old friend, Yagra, the wise woman there. You'd have heard of Yagra as being either a wise woman or a witch. She's also known as a hag or a healer. There's lots of different opinions on Yagra. He says he's traveling down to Dakron, but this is a nice way to journey, and he's friends with Kevron, who is the ranger here. He's broken bread with him this afternoon.
Good fellow, good fellow.
He prefers to travel by night, he says, which is a little unusual.
Interesting. You don't get as nice a view of. You say this is a pleasant way to travel, and it certainly is. No finer land to pass through, but not getting the full view of it in the evening.
No, though the sunset was beautiful, but there are many travelers on the road. Bandits rarely watch the roads at night, as people tend not to travel. It allows me to be a little less troubled and pass a little quieter.
Well, I suppose if it works for you.
Well, I do come, however, from Niagara, as I said, and before that from Harbondon, in the province. I tell you, there's strange events are happening. Strange events are happening. Do you believe in portents? Hennic, was it?
Indeed, it is Hennic, and well, I've been along this area enough years now. I've certainly seen some things come and go, seem to be preceded by certain indications, I suppose. No greater source of that kind of information, of course, than the book right here. And he sort of pats his book, which, if you saw very closely, is labeled "The Level-Headed Halfling's Almanac of Perennial Common Sense." And
a fine work,
a lot of net. Yeah, it's one of the few that can maintain some meaning over the years.
But I more meant mysterious portents. A red moon at night. Blood has been spilt in those sorts of portents.
Well, there are various cycles of the land and such, of course, but yeah, I mean, certain things grouped together could be troublesome. I would think. What have you been seeing, or what do you think it might portend?
I've seen very little, but there's whispers and tales from here and there, and people saying that there are dark times to come. Other such nonsense. Nothing like good old common sense to put that aside. Times are always dark and times are always light. It depends on where you live and which side of the field you lie. But there are definitely some portents on the wind. There are definitely whispers over and over again as I travel across the land of things, strange events, unusual happenings. Yagra herself said that old halflings would make new journeys to me, which, of course, that is fairly logical. I make new journeys all the time, but she certainly seemed to mean it a different way. She also spoke of a sign of peace arriving on a podium of fear. Lovers turning their backs on each other in the middle of the morning. Ill-fated luck lurking in the shadows and circles being broken. Whatever the hell that meant.
Well, it's not that I don't put any stock in such things, but of course it is, as you say, a little difficult to know exactly what in the hell they mean. You know, I see a sign, I see a wilting leaf, I know that a plant needs some water. There are indications that are easy to understand, but these sorts of things it's hard to put your finger on.
Thank you very much, Derek. I will probably let that carry through to session 1, as in these solo sessions, Joe is unlikely to have to roll. But we'll see, we'll see. You see, the strange thing is, he says, though I do agree with you very much so, that simple portents mean simple answers. Indeed, watering a plant, looking after crops, you have to be aware of the signs of life. However, Yagra also told me that there was an older halfling in Sandringham, full of common sense, and that perhaps
Well, she's right so far.
Perhaps I should drop by and let him know that sometimes old halflings make new journeys.
Well, now that's the kind of specificity one, I suppose, could act on. I don't suppose you have any idea what sort of journey she's talking about.
No.
Not with you. You're not asking me to come along someplace with yourself.
No, I'm going on to Dakron, and then I will return to Harbondon. I doubt that you wish to leave home to then come back to home for absolutely no reason. That, of course,
Not entirely sure how much I want to leave home at all, but...
Yes, I don't necessarily suggest that we partake in some nonsensical journey on the words of a hag. But, saying perhaps from one old halfling to another, maybe you should keep your eye open, see if the road is inviting you along.
Well, that's much appreciated, friend. I have to say I've come to tend to be dispensing the advice here in the evenings, but it's, I suppose, nice to get some in return.
Only that passed on, and it was after she mentioned yourself that she spoke of a sign of peace arriving on a podium of fear, and lovers turning their backs on each other in the morning, and ill-fated luck lurking in the shadows, circles being broken. I say the message again because, frankly, I'm not sure if it was for you or for I. But, actually, I do also come to you for both advice and, well, to do some advertising. First of all, the advertising, I guess. I should get that bit out of the way. Sorry, I'm just going to copy this out so that, even though I've said it twice, just so that you've got a note. He says, we must advertise to the Velvet Glove. We are a small guild of, I'd like to say, eminently sensible beings. And word does travel in this town. I wasn't kidding when I said the tavern mentions that there is no better person to lend an ear or tell a tale than Hennic Littlefield. That's what they all say.
Well, there aren't too many people in the town whatsoever, but it's an appreciated reputation, I suppose.
Don't put yourself down. Last count was 146. To stand out amongst them.
I don't think it's so much putting myself down as just recognizing a sensible place in the world.
Aye, it's no hard bond. The numbers there are quite frightening.
Well, and recognizing my own place. Not just, you know, if people speak of my sensible advice, it comes mostly from a place of not speaking above my station.
Roots of the earth.
Indeed.
Sensible. Well, perhaps before I travel, I might ask some simple advice.
Sure.
If you were told that you were going to die, what would you do? Soon. Obviously, we are all to die.
Well, I suppose, granting the truth of that latter, if I must. Well, it depends exactly on how soon, I suppose.
She didn't specify.
Well, I have heard strange advanced magics and other things, or, well, if you could turn yourself into one of these folk that live longer, the lucky bastards. But, avoiding that, I think you just have to, make the most of the time you got. Figure out what it is that you actually like to do, and do that, so that you don't, waste what time you have.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, as I'm already following that advice. See, I'm 62, Hennic. I should have 70 or 80 years ahead of me, but Yagra informs me that I'm to die this year. I would like to doubt her, but she has a certain reputation for knowing what's coming. And she's also a healer, so maybe I've just got some vile disease she hasn't bothered to diagnose for me. Nevertheless, there is a beautiful halfling lass. Phoebe
Well, I
is
have to. Sorry,
stunning.
continue.
That's right, Phoebe is stunning, and she's in Dakron. So, I'm not headed back to the guild today. I'm headed to see her and tell her I love her.
That sounds about right. I mean, look, even supposing Yagra knows what she's talking about, I can't imagine someone with that much information would bother handing it over to people if there weren't something to be acted upon.
Hmm.
Now, maybe that doesn't mean you can do something to avoid the fate, but certainly means you can take some action that will, benefit you in the meantime. You gotta have something to think on in those hours you have remaining. No matter how short the time is, you can make a lot of hours in the day to mull over the things you've done with your life, and those have got to be good experiences.
I appreciate it. It's pleasing to know that I'm not the only one who thinks this way. I thought I was being fanciful after she told me this, that if I made the best of what time was left, then it would be longer. And, I'd make more out of the hours. I'd do more in the time given. But as I was thinking this, I did wonder, shouldn't we all live our life that way? Whether we're to die next week, next month, or next century. What's the point of living if you're not living a life?
Well, I think that's eminently sensible. Just depends what that means for you, and whether you have the time to appreciate it as well. Sometimes people take it too far, get a little too worked up about filling their life with the things that they think are going to make the time meaningful, but never take a moment to, and I don't mean this living in the moment nonsense. That's not quite my line. I mean, really thinking about it, really sitting down to appreciate what you have had in the past, and I think you might have time left for both of those, but traveling man such as yourself, don't discount the possibility of coming across something that will, make that time a little longer for real, not just in your mind.
I wasn't kidding. You got some solid advice, Hennic. You a drinking man?
Well, not in particular, but
You
welcome to have whatever you like for yourself.
He hefts a bottle out, and he puts 2 cups on the table. And here is Sandsedge brandy, apricot. It's beautiful, from Goldenshire. And he pours himself a glass and takes a sip. And perhaps I might play you a song before I leave.
Well, that would be very nice, very nice.
Where are you from, Hennic? Where were you born?
I was born down in Boulder Down, actually. Some of my family roots back up in the more northern part of the Halfling lands, but grew up down in Boulder Down.
Thought as much, thought I recognized it in your features. Well, there's a song I know. The boat that came to shore. Thought perhaps I might share it with you. And he sings you a song.
Much obliged.
Don't worry, I'm not going to sing to you. He sings you a song telling of a boat that returns to shore without its passengers. Everybody worries. Everybody thinks, that they've gone missing, etc. And so they go out on 3 boats. But the boats return to shore. No passengers. Soon after that, townspeople worry and think, well, maybe there's something dreadful going on. So they all arm up and gather onto all their boats and off they head, out to sea. Years later, a singular traveller comes across this town, and it's he that writes the song. Says he sees all these boats in the harbour, but no people in the town. So, curious as he is, he rows his little boat outwards. And after a while, he comes to an island that he can only describe as paradise. The only problem is that there's nowhere to dock the boat, so he has to get out of his boat and swim towards it. As he's swimming towards it, the currents lead his boat away, but he arrives to a thriving paradise full of townspeople. My life is simply idyllic. At the end of his song, Xandrak smiles and says, "It's all about perception, right?"
Yeah, I think that's the case. I've put a lot of stock in the wisdom of the land around this place, but goes to show you there are powerful parables to be found all across the land of Beldania.
Not so sure it's a parable. I think the Boulder Downs speak of Camber. It's only recently been rebuilt.
Well, then there are truths in some of these songs as well. I don't discount that.
But, nevertheless, wise words. Written by a far wiser man than I. Well, as I said, if you are in Harbondon and you perhaps would like a chance to earn your coin a different way, or perhaps an adventure on the road, feel free to stop by the Velvet Glove, tell them Xandrak sent you. There is always work for a sensible chap like yourself. Knows how to speak proper, as they might say.
Well, yeah, I suppose that's the case, depending on your definition of proper.
But I must be for the road, to Phoebe. He
No time to waste.
doffs his hat and heads out up to the gate. Steps onto Clover, and as you watch, the horse doesn't quite reach the horizon before disappearing. Into the night. Almost like a trick. He's gone. I wonder what Hennic is pondering as he's left to his own devices on his porch.
Yeah, he is, he's thinking down probably two main lines. One is, this, it may not even have been the way that this fella meant it, but he has taken the idea of, well, I guess being put forward to him that there's some sense in going on a journey of some sort. What is the value in that? And so seeing that he is from another area and he fell in love with this place and the wisdom of the land here, but it's not the only place that has that kind of thing. And so even though he may have taken that in a slightly different direction than intended by the visitor, he's wondered about the value of moving around a bit. And also business about dying. And I think really he's feeling a little guilty focusing the man on the sensible approach that Hennic himself is not so sure he would be taking. He has spent plenty of time taking in those days, but if he knew it were coming, and coming soon, he might very well be a little more frazzled and a little more heading out looking for those other options he hinted at.
Oh. Good thoughts to sleep on those. And we shall
Perhaps
resume with Hennic the following morning as the sun rises. Would he get up before the dawn? The dawn is.
I think
6 a.m.,
right with it. He wants to see the change of the sky, but no earlier than that.
But as you awake and head down to the kitchen, you look out and see the sun begin to rise. How does Hennic's morning begin?
Yeah, so his farm is not predominantly animal related, although he does have a donkey called Black Radish. And so he would make sure that the Black Radish is taken care of for the morning, little feed and water. And then it is... Go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
as you walk out the door, this is the bit I was waiting for.
Sure.
As you walk out the door, there is a beautiful marrow circle that Hennic has been maintaining. However, you notice that during the night, the marrow at the very top center of the circle has been removed, is gone, has disappeared. Thus, breaking the perfect circle that he'd created.
Indeed.
Annoying.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would certainly go poke around that situation and see if I can tell what has happened with my plants.
It seems perfectly removed. As if somebody's
Hmm.
come and dug it up with a perfect harvesting tool in the middle of the night and just buggered off with it.
Interesting.
Theft
Noted.
is not a common thing in Sounding at all, and one
Sure.
marrow seems an odd theft, but,
Yeah.
you know, that's what it looks like.
Yeah, not the usual. But yeah, sets about replanting that. I mean, he's noting it. He's not going to ignore it, but he wants to fix it and get it back in proper shape if at all possible. So goes and sees if he has a seedling or plants or something like that. Seeds or seedlings, I suppose, is what I mean to say there.
Yeah.
And get that set to be fixing, and then yeah, out among the various other vegetables that he has growing, whatever would be the season, and just, I mean, it's already, you get the sense from there his response to the marrow issue, like it's already pretty perfect, but he still spends the whole morning just hoeing every little tiny little weed head off between the plants, and turning up stones that seem to be in the way, and tending to all the different plants and so forth. It's a very meditative kind of activity beyond its actual use for the plants.
Yeah, during your tilling and hoeing, you look over to where the scarecrow is that keeps people at bay. It is the year of endless summer, but the crows will come nevertheless. And just as the sun is sort of beginning to reach up into the sky, it's maybe perhaps 8:30 in the morning, you see a dove land perfectly upon the shoulder of a scarecrow. It lets out a single sort of squawk, almost in protest at the land. Its wings lift, but it doesn't rise into the sky. It just holds that pose momentarily, almost waiting for Hennic to catch its eye, and then takes off into the sky.
I think unable to sort of even just sort of keep it to himself alone, he sort of calls over to the donkey, and it's just like, well, now even a sensible, down-to-earth fella such as myself can understand seeing a couple of things like that. I don't put too much stock in these sorts of things, but this is a weird one, Black Radish.
Well, the donkey doesn't respond, but
Of course.
he sort of gives a very sort of down-to-earth hee-haw, what the hell are you on about? And leaves you to it. But then, you know, it's the harvest for the carrots, and you're tilling the earth, and you see two carrots perfectly sort of entwined with each other. They almost look like two lovers clasped together. I think it's fair to say Hennic would probably put this notable paired carrot on a table or something. Sure. So just, you know, to think about later.
Yeah.
And continues his hoeing, and you turn over a couple of interesting rocks that maybe take your eye, and day goes on, and suddenly you catch a sort of glimpse of something out the corner of your eye. As you turn and you look over to the porch, you see a black cat, half in the shadow, half out, sort of looking over to you. But as you look a little closer, you notice it's just a turn of the light. As he continues to hoe and move across the garden, where are his thoughts taking him?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a little bit of an odd morning for him, because activity-wise, this is his day in, day out. But as he said to the guy last night, a lot of times he gives a piece of advice, and then someone else comes with a question, and he's very sort of methodical about it, and will sort of tell them to come back the next day, right? so that he can think about it while he's out here. And now today he's out here thinking, and although there was a bit of a question, that guy's not coming back today, right? It's not the advice he was asked is over and done with. But what happened instead is he got some information, and now he's out here, the whole different kind of mulling going on, and obviously all these signs popping up as he goes along, and yeah, it's a little bit put off, a little bit concerned. It's like I was only just starting to think about maybe making a change for a little while, and something seems to be thrusting upon me a little fast, I think is how he's feeling.
Sounds fair. You see another flutter in the shadows. It looks a bit like a crow, but then it takes off. And this time it really is a crow, and it takes off, and in the shadows, out of the shadows, just over the carrots actually that were left upon that porch table. And then off into the distance. You can't help but sort of notice maybe it brushed the carrots, maybe it touched them. So you head over a little closer, and those two carrots that were entwined into the shape of lovers instead have separated, their backs to each other, looking out into the distance.
Well, when the signs come from the vegetables, now I know what to think. But I don't necessarily know where it leads, so mostly just concerned and thinking about if I have to go anywhere, I might have to chase down some more information from this Yagra.
Well, afternoon comes, post-lunch. And it's that sort of time that Hennic would normally head down to the river.
Absolutely.
And
Gathers up whatever stones that he found in the morning, puts them in a little sack, and makes his way across town.
Okay, and as you sort of wander out and head up this way, at the beginning you follow the path that your visitor last night would have taken. But he disappeared in this direction.
Sure.
As you go on round, down to a spot down by the river, you sit on a log. You notice across the water fine green berry just floating down the water. The stream flows from Dakron up towards you.
Sure.
Maybe a sign, maybe not.
Perhaps.
As you watch this floating berry, that black cat you saw earlier just sits on the riverbank, laying in the shadow, watching you.
Well, not usually the type I offer my advice to, but is there anything I can help you with, my little furry friend?
Who are you talking to? You look up to your right, and there is a young woman. She looks a little troubled, coming down the hill towards you. Her name is Meralda. She's the daughter of the mayor of Mergarden. Sorry to disturb you, Hennic. I didn't know you were down here. I know that I'm not the only person who comes here to find some peace. I won't trouble you.
Well, that's all right. I've been fooled around this morning by a black cat here. I thought I'd reach out a bit.
A cat? Daddy says they're bad luck. Frankly, I've always thought they were quite sweet.
Yeah, I think it depends on the cat.
Dad's all worked up this morning. So,
Well, no, what's bothering him now?
Oh, some dispute with Kelvin about... To be honest, a visitor came and there was some debate as to whether he booked a room at the inn, but then he didn't stay, and they were saying that he should have paid in advance, and they were talking about claiming the money back from someone or other, and I don't know. Apparently he was a friend of Kelvin's, and Daddy was blaming Kelvin, and Kelvin was saying that it really wasn't his responsibility, and frankly, it went back and forth so much that I thought I'd get out and get some peace. What with Dorcray knocking for me morning and afternoon, evening, and all kinds of hours, and the wedding looming up ahead, Dorcray's her fiancée. She just said, sometimes I'd rather not be at home, but, well.
Well, that's it's understandable, but there's a lot of value in home as well.
I just wish it was my home. Getting to that age,
Yeah, that's understandable. Well, I mean, you and
Dorcray.
Dorcray. No,
yeah.
Dorcray. You and Dorcray gonna be heading in that direction?
Got our eyes on the abandoned farmhouse just up the river of here a little bit. This is sort of just up here.
Sure.
Well, no, the one over from there. That's what we had our mind on, down the road from Dahlia and her family. There's an abandoned one there, and we thought we might do some rebuilding. Dorcray's got big plans, he's always full of romance. He says he's gonna take me up to the mountains next week. I'm looking forward to it. Says he's got somewhere to stay up there where the stars are beautiful. Do you like the stars, Hennic?
Yeah, I can enjoy a good twinkle or two.
I like the stars too, but last night I was quite disturbed. I looked out my window in the middle of the night when I woke up. Looked out over the stars and, the moon. It was blood red.
Well, seems to be quite a few funny signs like that of late.
Strange.
I don't know if it should trouble you in particular.
Well, I'm not one to listen much to what the world's telling me, to be honest. I like to try and go my own way, stubbornly, no matter what. I think my father taught me that.
That's fair.
Sometimes, things call to us. I can't help but question what I'm doing and wonder. I love Dorcray, but Sandringham? I don't know if we're going to stay. It might be time for a change.
Well, I put a pretty high value on Sandringham, but it's not where I'm from originally, of course, so I can understand that impulse. Sometimes, though, what you need to do is both, see one of your choices at its absolute best and take a moment to sort of at the same time put it out of your mind and think about something else. Have you ever skipped stones, dear?
Dorcray's very good at it. He tried to teach me, but, and she leans down and picks up a little stone next to the river and sort of throws it, and it just goes. And she sort of smiles, and that seems to happen every time.
Well, maybe the town isn't right for you then. I think it's at its best when it works a little better than that. Skip one, which I imagine I would do a nicer job, but you could roll if necessary.
No. It's bounces perfectly sort of 4 times, and as it skips across, it actually keeps bouncing all the way across the river and comes off the other side into a bush. And you hear a meow, and a little black cat comes scurrying out along, and she looks. It's that black cat again.
Yeah, you never know where he's going to be, that sucker.
I've seen one around the town before, but maybe he's new. And skipping stones, I think we might just leave you there. But as we leave you there, what is going through Hennic's mind?
Yeah, partly it's what's going through player Joe's mind, which is I'm not sure if I picked up on or not, like, the outcome of the various signs. If there was these things are pointing to X, I might have missed the X. But
they definitely represented the 4 portents that were mentioned.
Oh, yes, but like, did I have any information of what they were portents of?
No,
right.
No.
I didn't think so, but I thought maybe I missed it. Right?
Perhaps of a time for change or dark things coming. That's it.
Sure. Right. Yeah. So just definitely wondering about all that, and I don't know. I think even just that last little exchange with is it Dahlia? Is it the one?
No. Dahlia is her friend.
The pregnant one, right?
Yeah, no. She gave birth. Actually,
Yeah,
she's not.
that's what I say,
She's
yeah,
not pregnant anymore. This
No.
was Meralda.
Meralda, that's it. I even wrote it down. I'm done.
Yeah, Meralda,
Okay.
who is the fiance. She's the daughter of the mayor and the fiance of Dorcray.
Right. Okay, I got them straight now. Shouldn't have watched the other ones. It's confusing me.
Yeah, she's in Rico's. That is quite
Yeah.
confusing. Yeah,
That's right.
up
That's
in the
right.
mountains, and they're all at different times as well. And I didn't do them in time order because people's schedules don't work that way.
No, that's fine. But just that little bit where I think particularly, so he had a little bit of guilt over not necessarily giving the guy last night the advice that he maybe truly believes about the death issue, and then trying his best to give Meralda legit advice that maybe it's not right for her to stay here, which is not his normal inclination, right? Like, no, this place is wonderful and it has everything anybody could need. And so, yeah, just thinking about, boy, I guess if that's the right thing for her, different things might be the right thing for anybody. And there are a whole lot of pieces of information here, weird signs that, well, if nothing else, other people are going to start asking him about. And so he's going to have to know a little bit more about what is going on.
Yeah. I thought that was one of my favorite parts, actually, was where Hennic's sort of opinion on stability and staying at home and sort of keeping within the comfort things sort of changed near the end there.
Sure.
And I thought that was a really lovely touch. So no, I enjoyed that. But yeah, we'll bring it to an end. Obviously, I will pass you Chatspiration, as you might call it. But that will expire at the end of the first session, so spend it wisely. I'm not necessarily doing MVPs, but were there any particular moments or highlights that stood out for you beyond the chat at the end?
I think I did like the discussion with the guy the night before. Like, I knew writing this character that, like, I was calling for myself to come up with conversation, you know what I mean? Rather than like, this is a character who always reacts by stabbing something or by asking about chemicals or what, there are things that are like easy reactions to stuff and you know what you're going to do. And I'm like, this is obviously going to be a guy who's going to have to talk about shit. And I am, that is my nature, but you're still never sure that you're going to come up with shit to say like that fits the guy in the moment. So I enjoyed that it was sort of a good balance of like, okay, I was able to have a whole just conversation scene and it had some value to it.
Yeah, 100%. One of my first characters, actually, you've met him, of course, Dax, was a College of Eloquence bard. And sometimes you're just sitting there thinking, I don't have the charisma my character does. Bloody hell, what the hell am I going to say? But usually you can bullshit your way into it. But
sure.
It does put a pressure on the player, I think, far more than the barbarian,
Right.
So not to be troping anyone.
But just getting another little, even if it is my part of the town, like just getting another side of the town atmosphere is fun. Looking forward to seeing it continue and seeing everybody put it all together.
Yeah, I think it's been a real joy sort of doing these 5 and getting such a different image of the different people.
Right.
Sort of we had today we had Bruno playing Natasha, who was incredibly hesitant and unsure of herself, which was a lovely contrast from Rico, who was very, very sure of himself. I mean, too sure of himself. He was incorrectly sure of himself. He was so confident that he could track someone down. Then lead to sort of Hennic, who was confident in his own beliefs, but still, unnerved enough by what was going on to sort of doubt his own words. So he was sort of a nice mixture of both. And then, of course, we've had sort of the overly studious, desperate to know everything, over-curious Chiavo, and the so laid back it doesn't matter guy that transformed himself into a cat of Josh that still didn't really want to know how it happened. And sort of I liked the curiosity from Hennic of sort of, there was enough curiosity to explore things, but not enough to he just replanted the marrow.
Right.
I loved that touch. It was just a sort of evident good sense, Yes, that's very strange. Okay, fine. It needs replanting. Let's get on with that.
Yeah.
So I like the contrast.
This has got to be fixed by next season.
Exactly. Yeah, so
but,
it's...
well, I also, I liked it that you structured it so, I think just about everybody else, if not all of them, have already in their individual sessions gone on some level of journey, right? And then for Hennic, it makes perfect sense to be like, no, he's in the town the whole time. He's not going on his little journey to a shop at Harmondan or whatever. Nothing, right? It just fits him. It's fine for the other ones. It's wonderful. But yet, not just leaving it there. Not just leaving it at, oh, he stays here and his story is just going to be here.
It's
for now.
interesting you say that.
The whole time was all about how that's not going to be able to be the way it is. You know,
my prefix notes are Rico, Josh, Jamal, and Bruno all say goes on a journey too, and Jodai says make him think he might need to go on a journey.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
That's the whole construct that I had to work around. Of like, why would Hennic go anywhere or do anything?
Yeah.
You know, and obviously it's going to start with the smallest of steps of like, oh, you know, the town needs us to head 150 foot down the road. He might do that. That's fine. But you know, he's not just going to fuck off to, you know, the far eastern land of Veralia and explore the mountains. That's not Hennic.
Right.
So it's, I like that it gave me something to work with, and of course I did call for everybody to bring me a character that doesn't really have any aspirations to go anywhere.
Right.
It is then my job to give you an aspiration to go somewhere, and I think that's a beautiful little change. But yes, no, I really enjoyed it, and thank you for sort of working with me on it.
Oh yeah, good stuff.
Letting me roll with it. So I think there we will end, and let's have a little look. Are we going anywhere nice, or are we staying put? Let's have a look. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. It's really not what I wanted to do. Sorry guys, I'm playing an advert. I'm just playing the noise of an advert. We are gonna actually go somewhere. I don't normally raid from such a small thing, but I would like to take us to I Can't Spell. We're going to go and see Asgard's D&D Adventures, who are an old friend that we used to raid every single Sunday. And I think we should just go and show them some love. So, Jodai, if you'd like to say goodbye, I think we shall see you soon.
Bye-bye. See you soon.